So sweet.
All right, okay, this is the Parks, Preserves and Pathway meeting. Committee meeting, and it is starting at the exact time, 4:03. Okay. Do you mind closing?
Yep, I'll take care of
Right.
it. We have an extra one.
I think I'll go ahead and do the roll call because Heather is not here. Here's Steve.
Oh.
Right, oh, Heather is not here. Chris Chang,
He just walked out. He's here.
myself, Steve Hurt,
Here.
Steve Kern,
Hi, here, sorry.
Dave Crockett,
Here.
Patrick is not here. Thomas Morris.
Here.
Roy Townsend.
Here.
Liz White. Here. Judy.
Here.
Judy, how do you say your last name?
DeVoe or Monk? Monk.
I'm gonna say it wrong.
That's okay.
And Murphy is here. All right, okay. So we'll start out with the adoption of the agenda. Does anyone?
I'll move to the election of the agenda. Sorry. Oh, yes, oh. Well, Liz, do you have to move right now? Do you need one?
No, I don't.
Okay,
The other agendas, anybody else need agendas?
who's
I passed over.
Patrick, but I'm. So, well, oh, of course we do. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Okay, so. We have on here communications to the Board of Trustees.
Because we used a template and forgot to take it off.
Okay.
Apparently, so.
Very good, all right. Scratch that, right?
So we scratched.
So we can do introductions because we have Dave Crockett here and he's going to be filling the spot that Patrick is going to be stepping away from. So welcome to the table. And I know that you actually officially start next month, but and then you won't be here, but welcome to the table.
Thank you.
And Judy, welcome to the table.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey.
I am delighted to be here. Table.
And, you know, we can say a lot of good things about Patrick. He's not here. But Patrick started, the same year I did, which was 2018. He served on the Parks Advisory Board. And then he took, the position of a trustee, Board of Trustees. And after he, stepped away from that position, he came back to Parks. He was kind of recruited back to Parks. So, but it's been, very nice getting to know him and having him on our board. And one thing I would say about Patrick is he really did show up when we did field work, when we did our Scio outside, or if he knew that there was something that needed to happen, Patrick was there. He was really good. Okay. Anyway, hopefully he'll still be around to help us outside. And now it is time for public comment, which, this is the time for members of the public to speak for 3 minutes on any matter under the preview of parks, pathways, and preserves. And do we have anybody waiting?
Yep, we've got Kathleen Brandt.
Great.
Wait a minute, you're muting me as
Yeah.
you keep muting me and I'm unmuting. So anyway, Kathleen Brand, I thought you stated that David Crockett starts next month. He is a member effective immediately that the board appointed him. So I hope that's not what you intended and that he has full participation and voting rights. Thanks.
No other hands at the moment.
Okay, and there's no one else in the room. Great. Okay. So let's move on to the approval of the minutes for our November meeting. They were sent with the agenda.
I didn't get one.
They were in the packet.
They were in the packet.
Packet.
Mhm.
When did we get a
Well,
packet?
I'm sorry, I got mine online by going to the Scio website. I don't think it was, I didn't not get it by email this.
I didn't
time.
either. Yeah.
There was it was on the agenda in blue and you just click on it. So it was
Yes,
on this agenda. I didn't get it. Uh-oh.
I don't think it was sent out.
I mean,
Sorry.
did I not send them out last Friday?
No.
I may not have then. I may have just sent it to you and Roy, I think, into someone else of three. I apologize. They are online. I did upload them online. I may not have sent them to each individual
Okay,
member.
so should we just do it at the next meeting?
Sure, so it sounds like the majority of people haven't seen it.
Haven't seen it.
Yeah, no, that's, few of us have, and then I'll.
They were.
Yeah, they're part of the agenda package.
I think we normally send them
I
out.
send them out to each
individual.
individual member, I think the Friday before the meeting and maybe I just. I
Oh,
may have
instead of
mixed
going
it up between
online.
the chairs.
Okay.
So that was, okay.
But
You
they-
want to make copies and have it done or not?
I don't think we'll have time to review the minutes.
So we can add them to the next.
Yeah, we'll just bring it.
We can do it. It's
Okay.
okay. There isn't.
I'll add to
Right,
the next
okay.
meeting.
All right. And who's gonna remember that?
I will make it notes right now and I will add those
Okay.
into the agenda.
All right, very good. Okay, so we can move on to reports. Murphy, would you like to start with parks?
Yes. Gonna write this down. Okay. We have a lot to go over, so I'll just I made bullet points, but if anybody wants more like information, you can ask, or it might just automatically give enough information, I'm not sure. So, the first thing is that the CIP, the first draft, has been submitted to Plant Moran. And you all have a copy of that in front of you for us to go through today. And we do definitely have time to make revisions to it, as long as it happens, like within the next week, I'd say. In the newsletter that's gonna be coming out, once the board approves it, there is an update from me about parks, and within that update is the list of upcoming programs for the next quarter. So January through, I guess it's actually April. Yeah, so January through April, the programs that we have right now are the Scio Flyers asked, we're gonna be doing more collaboration. So the first event is January 1st at noon, will be the Scio Flyers Fanny Freeze. So they go out New Year's Day and like have one flight that happens really fast and everybody claps and then we all go home because it's gonna be cold. The second event is the collaboration with Leslie Science and Nature Center. We'll be doing their cold-blooded classification, so they're bringing the program here to Township Hall for us. So we'll be advertising. It's still free for the public, but we do have to cap attendance at 50 people, which I think will be fine. So please come if you want to. Bring your kids and grandkids. We'll have plenty of space, I think.
Do you have a date on that?
It'll be online. I haven't posted, so the dates, I didn't, for some reason, include the dates in my update, but that one's in January, I think, so it's the second Friday of January. What was the other ones? So then we'll be doing another owl prowl, probably at West Owl Preserve again. This is probably a better time for us to actually hear the screech owl, so hopefully we'll get more activity owl wise. Then in February, we'll be having a volunteer mixer. And so I'll give you guys more details about that, but I was hoping to have all of the active committee members and previous committee members attend. And then I'm gonna be doing a massive like publicity push so that we'll be attracting new volunteers, so people will be welcomed, it'll be lightly catered. So we'll have people come in to get an idea about what volunteer opportunities that we have outside of the committee. And my goal is to have ready a table for like wildlife monitoring. We did get the approval of the grant from Michigan Bluebird Society. So tomorrow I'm going out with the Washtenaw County Coordinator to figure out where we're gonna put the boxes and how many. So we'll have that for wildlife monitoring, and then there'll be a couple other things to put on there, which I'll explain further down the programs list. Then natural areas management will be another little table that can be added for people that are interested in that. And then a couple more tables. I'm not sure exactly what the themes will be for those tables and what will be involved in them. But I also want to make sure that it's inclusive, so you have all different types of abilities. People with different abilities can still participate. So I'll need help figuring out what exactly to do. We can talk more about that. Then in March will be, or is it April? March or April, there will be a frog call monitor training, which will be both in person and online, so that people can sign up to learn what our protocol is going to be, to have people go out to each preserve to do frog call monitoring. It's partially just to get people out to the parks and give people a chance to learn about local fauna, flora, fauna, is the one I wanted. So it's one of the other things that we're gonna be adding for wildlife monitoring for volunteers.
But you said you're gonna train us.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Mostly going to be mirroring the format of NAP, their herpetologist there has done a lot of frog call monitoring training. So I'm gonna take what I learned from him and apply it here. Okay, so next thing is Liberty Pond Nature Area updates. We have, Liz was very helpful in informing me that we are having more problems with littering out there. And so Chris and I decided to make sure that the cameras got put up today and a sign that says notice 24-hour surveillance at this park. And within the process of putting up those signs, we had 2 people walking their dogs that said, thank goodness you guys are starting to do this, because people are driving their trucks back here, people are using drugs over here, people are doing all kinds of things and then leaving the traces of it behind. So
So they are still driving trucks. I could not see new.
there wasn't new tracks, no, but there was a man, and this, he told us about the incident that happened in June, and he had a picture of the vehicle and the license plate. So it's good to know. We also helped him to know who to contact in the future to let us know. I think that's part of the issue, is people just don't know who to tell.
Yes.
So that's another thing that we're working on, which is, Roy and I just talked about it a little bit, but having a easy to use public facing web site or web app where people can start to report things that they see at the parks or maintenance issues, etc. Yes.
If there's a signage at any of the preserves, parks, whatever, is there a place to put a phone number if you see a problem, call, whatever? Is
We
there?
definitely should, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's there at the moment, but we should.
At several of the preserves, there's a filter with a bulletin board. That would be a good place for it.
Sure, sure. Yeah.
Yes, and then in the newsletter, there's also a blurb that says, if you see something at the parks, contact this, my phone number, email address.
Mhm. Okay.
So I know that's just the newsletter, so like, it'd be nice to
Well,
have a
everything
more permanent
helps. I mean,
place.
sure, but yeah, I think at the park, at those
QR
kiosks or
code.
whatever,
Something that they can.
whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
See a problem, call,
Yeah.
whatever, yeah,
Be immensely helpful.
yeah.
We are officially part of the NABAT system, which is a national reporting database for bat data. And so to be able to do stuff like that, we have a stationary bat monitor that will be deployed. We'll have a schedule that is in compliance with their protocol, but we'll be deploying an acoustic monitor at each of the parks periodically to record the bat calls and then manually ID the species. And then we'll be able to contribute that to the NABAT database, and that will be part of the stewards job and I think we've talked about this in the past, but my goal with the stewards is to add a little bit of like a research component. So they can choose like bats, birds, flora of some kind to take a special interest in during their time. I'm hoping someone will be interested in bats, otherwise we'll be doing it. Or I will, I'm not sure. Been trying to get a hold of Volunteer Hub, which is what Natural Areas Preservation uses to track their volunteer time, their accounts, like all their contact information. I have reached out to them 3 times over the last 5 weeks and have still never heard anything back because you can't just buy it. So I'm going to be looking at Logistics instead, which I think maybe you know the answer to this. I think Mathi uses Logistics for their volunteer tracking.
That I don't remember what I used there.
Okay, I'll be in contact with their volunteer coordinator to ask at least.
I think the Humane Society may use that.
Logistics? Okay. I checked out a few, I wrote down a list of some, but a lot of them are more donor driven, like financially, like volunteers. So Logistics was the only one that looked promising, other than Volunteer Hub. We got the Michigan Bluebird Society grant, which I mentioned, and we are still working with Brandon to get the logs ready for this stair stepper. We keep running out of daylight, so our time together is pretty limited because he gets out of school at the time he gets out. So, but we're almost done, and he's been really awesome. It's still really nice to work with. We got the net climber in today, which if you could stay after to look at it with me.
Sure.
Or anybody that's interested. You can ask Chris, I'm not happy with it. Oh,
So you have the materials.
it's built.
Oh, it's built. It's back there.
Yes, and be interested to see what you think about it. Some of the wood has like cracks and seams in it.
Never mind. So I don't know if it's.
I don't know, I don't like it, I'm not happy.
It came built, or you guys, something,
It came built,
shipped it built,
yeah.
that's interesting. I don't know who does that anymore,
So,
but, right?
yeah, I just want to hear anybody who's interested to hear your opinion on it. And that's all I have. Do I have any questions?
So wait, who installed it?
We will install it, so
Oh,
the
it's
way
not
that it,
installed.
no, not installed. It's like the whole rope structure, it's like in the frame with
So wood frame with the mesh.
it's rope, it's thick rope.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then we have the 2 pieces that go underground and then there's like a gap to fit them in with the frame itself after it's in the ground.
But I'm guessing at this point, it's probably too late in the season to do all the earthwork and grading.
Not as long as it's not frozen. We can still do it. I asked MRC and I
No, I
said we
know.
can still do it as long as it's
But
not
it's getting
frozen.
18 tonight, so or whatever.
Yeah.
8 degrees.
Holidays are
Yes.
coming.
So the-
Yeah,
I guess there's a small window left and I mean, I could get warm, obviously, last January it was warm, so who knows? Starting out, I mean, started out fall was really nice, but obviously November, December is turned sort of cold.
yeah.
And where is it?
It's gonna be stored in the garage. So that nobody walks with it. It is heavy, but it's not that heavy, so I don't want to store it outside.
Where the blueberry box is gonna be?
At Liberty Pond.
Liberty Pond? Oh,
Yes.
yeah, perfect.
Yeah, I'm
Great.
excited. I hope we get 24. I think that would
Oh,
be
really?
a really nice number.
Yeah.
That's all I
4
have.
boxes?
What?
24 bluebird boxes?
Yeah, 12 pairs. is what I'm hoping for.
Okay.
Which could be another intern project, unless we got volunteers that want.
I will do it.
Okay,
Oh, sure.
yeah,
I've always wanted to do that.
it's so fun. I would love to teach you.
Yeah, okay, good. Got one.
Nice.
You could probably twist my arm too.
You know, I had a feeling.
Are you, I have a question about, this.
But that's,
project.
that is on the agenda.
It's on the agenda. Oh, we're gonna talk about it.
Yes.
Okay, good. I was gonna say, well, there it is. Good. Okay, good. All right, let's see. So planning, Liz, do you have anything?
No, I'm not planning. I'm
Your land
I know nothing
preservation.
about.
There is no, you don't have a planning rep because that was John Reiser and it's now Kathleen Brandt.
Okay,
So will Kathleen be coming?
I don't know if she's been invited or included. I don't know.
Okay,
I mean, she could always provide a written one too.
okay, I'll reach out to
However,
her
yeah,
and
however she's-
ask for a written, maybe? Does that sound?
Yeah.
Okay.
And part of it is how much collaboration is needed with planning. I mean, it could be every meeting or it could be just.
Oh, planning meets
something.
once a month too.
Yes.
yeah, I think we've always had a report from.
I think it's twice. I think it's twice a
Okay.
month.
This month?
I think it would be nice
think
to
it's twice a
still
month.
know, so we maintain like a well-rounded understanding.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Even if it's a written report, I mean, if
Right.
she doesn't want to come and she, it's something that we can put in with our. agenda-
Exactly.
our agenda.
But there should be minutes generated.
Pardon me?
There should be minutes
true.
generated, right?
Yes,
So they can just send that information.
that would be.
If they're posted, I could add them then to the
Mhm.
agenda.
Right.
I could look at
I'll,
it.
I'll add the, that'd be the easiest way without.
Yeah, I could add the
So
monthly.
much already created in those minutes, so those minutes. We can get access to those.
Okay. Right. Okay, and the LPC,
LPC, I have three short things. We have two new members. Judy is our new board rep and David Reed is our new member filling Will Weber's seat. We are still working on our contract with our consultant. I think it's getting to the point where everyone's agreeing. On the December 17th board agenda, there will be, consideration of a conservation easement that LPC has recommended to the board in a long sought after copy. So that's exciting.
okay,
Conservation easement, meaning the people will continue to live there, but the land is, it won't be a park anymore.
okay.
Liz, what does your consultant do for you guys?
A lot,
Yeah,
contacts
sure.
property owners
Oh, okay.
and applies for grants, federal funding, state funding, green belt,
Mhm.
various partnerships, so that
Is it
we
very
aren't
high?
paying for all of these properties ourselves.
Barry Lonick is your consultant?
Yes, yes.
Oh, great. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Is there a change in status on that or?
yes, we've been
Yes.
working on it back
On
and
the
forth,
contract.
for the past, few weeks, yes.
But it's not, it's
No, not signed
not
yet,
settled.
no,
Okay.
right.
Very good. Okay. Let's see, roads, do we have anybody? No.
No. So
Okay,
because we'll probably do the same thing, try to
Yeah.
track down our minutes from the previous month, I think.
okay.
Same with the DDA, right?
I do have a small
DDA, you
report
might-
about the
yeah.
DDA.
DDA,
So I'll probably be attending those meetings now so that I can do the report for the DDA. And I didn't stay for the whole thing, but they met on Monday, thank you, Monday at noon to talk about their capital improvement plan. And it's not budgeted or anything yet, but I forgot to tell you guys this. I did ask the DDA to consider funding phase 2 and 3 of the Township Hall Park, which was around 100,000. And so it's part of they're gonna be providing, as long as the budget gets approved, 50,000 to parks for phase 2 and 3 this year, or the next fiscal year, and then the following fiscal year. So we'll get a total of 100,000 from the DDA for the next 2 years.
How did you do that?
I just asked.
Okay.
that's all that needed to be done is asked. And the other is, as Murphy pointed out to them, your millage, your parks millage, percentage of it already goes to them.
100,000 is
Yes.
what they captured from.
So
Them
the
DDA or them?
DDA,
Oh, okay.
our authority, the
Yeah.
DDA is the Scio authority,
Mhm.
but the parks millage that constituents pay already, some of it does go to your parks. So it's really just deploying the money
Mhm.
into
As it
areas
should, it was
as a
expected to be
potential-
anyway, yeah.
necessarily expected,
Oh.
because the millage says parks and DDA, so,
Ah,
but it's an appropriate collaboration.
mhm. Okay, great.
Mhm.
Good.
Okay, I don't really understand that logic, but it's not expected that it's, so the money is,
There's
it's a
authority.
partnership, but it's questionable whether or not
Uh-huh.
it's really a partnership. Is that what?
I
I'm
didn't use
sorry.
partnership. I didn't use partnership.
It's not a partnership.
No, the authority is a statute-based organization. It's, okay, whereas these are commissions
Yeah,
that has a dedicated millage.
right.
Okay, so DDA has its own funds,
Okay.
but because of statute, it also gets not a percentage, but money from these other millages based upon statute. And that'll be true for the fire also. So it's not just something that someone dreamt up or Scio dreamt up.
Right.
But in the past, no one has collaborated with the DDA officially to say, oh, let's see what we've got going on and where we can apply and use those funds. And it's more because there was not the discipline around in the entire township around capital improvement planning. That's really where the gap was, because DDA's last capital improvement plan that is supposed to be done regularly was not done since 2006. Okay. And so even the township has been behind on their capital improvement plan. It's supposed to be a 6-year rolling, so you have a 6-year view, but every year it gets updated. Hasn't been done in a disciplined fashion. And so this is the first year in a number that it's going to be, it's very disciplined. We've got a calendar on what steps we're taking. And this past week, actually this week is the first week that those meetings have started. That's why it was important for Murphy to go to the DDA meeting, because the DDA meeting was a special meeting dedicated to capital improvement planning.
So
So,
something that I learned from that meeting was that the people on the DDA didn't know that $100,000 was captured from parks. And I think that had an impact on their decision.
Because I mean, yeah, because I had to ask that question. No one really knew what that number was. I mean, I had asked that numerous times, like, how much is the DDA capturing? How much? No one could give you a number. So it took us 2 years to finally figure out a number. It sounds like they did actually figure out that number.
and they should have always known the number. I mean, and
Someone should have read it. but they
Yes.
didn't.
But it's history now. And so, no, there's money there. They're not required, as an authority, they are not required to feed it in this manner. Does it benefit the constituents and the township? My opinion, yes. So, I think you have a plan, you can present the facts, and in fact, make a good persuasive reason for them to support this activity. And that's what Murphy did. And so.
Good job, Murphy.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Yes,
coming.
absolutely.
yes.
Thanks for asking the questions and yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how things get started.
Exactly.
No one
Exactly.
asked a question, or when we asked a question, no one had an answer, so it's like, okay, I get it.
And now it goes, and if on the other side, the true capital improvement planning process isn't happening, it goes through those cracks too. And so you'll see we're trying to get every group, whether they have a millage or not, to have capital improvement planning.
So I know there's been some aspect of capital improvement planning, because this isn't the first time I've heard of it. I mean, I've heard of it many times,
Yes,
but I didn't know the depth of it or who's,
because it was never,
Who's
it
checking on the
was
chickens here?
not, it takes discipline to do strategic planning and a 6-year view. Okay, so the first sheet that Murphy and I looked at, that was handed out. There was only figures in the 24 column and a few in the 25 and a few when you look down the different departments. It just was not done to the degree that makes it an effective tool.
So who is the person or department that is responsible at this point for overseeing that and making sure that I don't understand who.
Well,
does
it would be finance. And we've had a gap we haven't had a finance director in a while. I can't, how many years, but what we have is a consultant now, Plant Moran, has been filling that role of finance manager. And, but in this kind of interim where we're still having Plant Moran, it is the clerk, Jessica, and Plant Moran, who's driving the calendar, the schedule, and the discipline that comes with it. And so it would fall under finance manager, which right now is filled by Plant Moran.
That must be pretty expensive.
Um,
Plant brand on payroll.
No, it's the same one that does, it's not a separate activity. He's the same one who has done our finance manager role for that water study that came out and does other roles. It's not cheap. I'm not gonna say it's cheap. They have attempted to fill it at times, but
Fill
the position of finance manager that we really
Is
have.
it posted now?
Whether it's posted right now, I don't know, but it has been on a number of occasions. So you're looking for someone that has hopefully municipal experience, CPA, and audit experience, and preferably in the municipal government sector. But in the meantime, Plant Moran has been performing the required statutory functions.
So we can expect that as we move forward working on this, it's gonna be Jessica and Plant Moran that are sitting at the helm, that are the ones that are putting.
Yeah,
this
that are
together.
driving it.
Well, we put it together. I put
Yeah.
it together.
Each
Okay.
department,
It's still like,
This is
Yeah.
for,
it's still like mine and our discretion to determine what needs to be included in the CIP.
okay.
And then they're assembling all of it into a spreadsheet.
And it has to get approved. and- and
yes, it has to,
So each department, right? And that's just how a lot of good run organizations do. things.
exactly, and
You
there's
just-
many steps that it has to take before the final will get to the board, but it has to get to, I mean, the final is the Board of Trustees will vote on it, I think it's in March, it's our schedule, and we have to have both budgets done effective April 1. Just go to your thoughts. And then it starts all over again next fall to see what did get done, what did not get done, and what do we have to modify, what are the things that have changed.
In theory, it's a continuous process.
It is, that's
I mean, you're actually
exactly.
doing things and knocking things off and you're adding things. It's like, should be a continuous process. Like I
Yes.
said, you're always adding to the extra year out.
You're
So-
always adding and
so
dropping things
25, you
off.
should be looking out the 30,
And
31 type thing.
In year one, you should have a pretty narrow range of accurate numbers. 6 years out, at best, those are guesstimates.
Right.
But you want the project on there so you can keep moving it forward. And a number of projects require more money than you're going to have allotted that year. So you're building up savings, if you will, for them. And so that's what some people are saying, well, DDA has this larger balance, then why do they have this larger balance? Well, it's because they've got a big project out. And so say, why aren't we spending it? Well, they've got a larger project and so they have to deposit. Kind of like with mortgage escrow accounts that pay. And so which I expect if Murphy has a big project, like we're talking pavilion or something, it's the kind of thing that you want to have money in the bank and know there's more money coming in. Pay for it.
How do we find more of these interesting finds like we just did with the DDA? Do we have Jessica and Plant Moran kind of whittling down everything to also discover these other pots of accessible money that we might have for us? How would we go about knowing how much money do we have access to recommend? I know we can't spend, but we can recommend. How do we find all that out?
Well, you would have your millage.
It's really just gonna be the millage and the DDA. I mean, you could ask the township for the
So
general.
in other words, there are no other secret silver linings somewhere,
Yeah,
right?
the fire department's not gonna give
Okay.
us money.
Yeah.
I mean, other millages, utilities generally are not gonna give you.
Yeah,
money.
and
Okay.
utilities doesn't have a millage, they charge
Rates.
water and sewer.
Uh-huh.
She pursues grants,
Mhm.
is what actually Barry Lonick is a really good example
Mhm.
of pursuing other monies would be grants. And the bathroom just came out of the general fund.
Mhm.
So it isn't available to you, but you can tap into it.
Mhm.
And as.
In theory, it's available. I mean, nothing prohibits it from.
No, exactly.
Right.
But it's not money that you would automatically, it's not a secret fund or an unknown fund,
Mhm.
but the general fund.
So there's levels of money that's more or less, well, I'll say the word committed from millage and things like that. Maybe that's too strong a word.
That's no,
but-
it is committed.
Okay, well, so
No, the millage
that's
must
money.
be spent
Oh, right.
as the
There's a-
voters have
Mhm.
it
Yep.
said.
Right, but
Yes.
that percentage of whether it goes to DDA or us is the gray area?
Well, it's by statute.
Yeah, okay,
It's
okay,
by statute.
all right. So then there are, well, okay, levels of priority, like a level of priority one is millage money, that's for us, right? So other collaborative ways in which money might come to us, grants, well, that's not a collaboration, that would be right, and we hopefully get, but we could ask the general fund for some money as well. That might be on the lower tier of, well, maybe, don't count on it, but maybe, right? So we've got, is that
Yeah,
a fair
because
way
you
of
would be
kind of
competing,
organizing things? Yeah,
because for general fund, you
Sure.
would be competing with
right.
every and anything.
Right, but as long as I kind of understand what our whole pie chart of possible resources are with those that are committed, with those that are possible for grants, and then, hey, you're fighting it out with everybody else, but hey, there's this pot, you could try it. So, okay, that kind of helps me just visualize where we're going with
Yeah,
the kind of money that we either have or don't have.
Yeah, think actually of your tax bill.
Mhm.
We all get a tax bill from Scio and in your tax bill, you're going to have X amount of money that goes to the LPC
Mhm.
in that millage, and that's dedicated, and then you've got Parks Pathways is also dedicated, and then you've got the general fund monies. And you pay a water bill and sort of-
Ideally, at the end of the year, if there's a pie chart that you could look back
Mhm.
and say, we spent $100, $1 million, doesn't really matter. And 85% of it came from a parks village, 5% came from here, 3% came from here,
Mhm.
you know, and you could look back. And then going forward, you could say, okay, let's anticipate, we could get 3%
Exactly.
from this fund. Not every year, but overall, that's how
And I
Murphy
think-
then can make informed decisions
Yes.
Absolutely.
based on past.
That's what I'd really like to know. is
That's where we're
how
driving.
we-
it.
Yes,
Because
yes.
before the township, we didn't have the
We
numbers.
haven't, we didn't know, I mean, yes, so, good, thank you.
What year
this
did
can
the
be-
DDA begin receiving its by statute portion of the Parks and Rec?
Correct.
Say that again.
When did that start?
When did it begin?
It started when the millage
When-
started.
The township millage for parks was approved.
But our authority, the authority was created in 1988.
The DDA.
But the millage was passed much more recently, the Parks and Pathway millage.
So since we didn't know until recently what that dollar amount was with the DDA, has that money been going to the,
DDA.
It hasn't been
it hasn't been?
reattributed to parks, no.
Okay.
Murphy's the first one to get
Yeah.
the money.
No one did anything wrong, though.
Right.
I mean, it was
No one
nothing,
asked, when we asked the question, no one knew the numbers, no one knew the answer, so now finally we're getting.
So even though it wasn't being spent on the Parks Village,
well, to parcel it out, that they did do, when I say DDA did spend some money on, say, some sidewalks. Okay, so it wasn't, so as they maybe spent money on sidewalks, it might not have come through your plan on what sidewalks, but did they spend them on parks, pathways and preserves? Yeah,
which is part of their authority.
exactly, in their boundaries. So they have these the boundary. So it was never asked of them. And thus it moved forward. Yeah, it's, so you get assertive and you dig into it and you change your future.
So Judy, do you have a report for the Board of Trustees as well?
We had, no action on Parks and Pathways this last, meeting. But I will compliment Murphy on the whole adopt a preserve, approach that she has taken, given that she doesn't have current stewards. So, I think that's, something that I think is excellent on her part, and also, we learned from it at the same time and how to utilize volunteers and how to, I think she's headed in a really good direction with respect to tracking the hours, because there are programs that will, in nonprofits, that will match dollars. If you can accumulate X number of volunteer hours, they they attach dollars to those, and then they can provide matching funds. It has to be tracked though, and so going down the avenue of tracking it, you can then pursue funds from other avenues that might have money available.
And I follow up on what Judy just said. I'm the park monitors. It would be really helpful to me to have just a little bit of training on how you want us to interact with people. Or maybe like
Sure.
a t-shirt, one of
I was
somebody
thinking,
ran
yeah,
across
t-shirts
people
are
with
like
t-shirts.
a vest.
But because I'm just a woman walking around in a blue coat, you know, and so, you know, I cost someone and say, you're not supposed to walk your dog off leash, you know? So it would be helpful to have some kind of training or.
Carry a power saw.
Yeah, right.
Or wear a
I know,
We
right.
could have a hat that we wear when we do our.
But just have standardize our interaction so that we're friendly, we want to welcome people. And we also want to say, hey, did you forget that you're supposed to pick up this pile of poop here? And
That sounds good.
yeah.
How do you feel about like a vest, like not necessarily a safety green, but something along that lines, like light and kind of like net-y? Or do you prefer something more sturdy, like a zip up, like a coat? What do you think?
Coats are expensive. It's, well, it depends on the season, you know?
Yeah, we could do t-shirts and then maybe, well, not long sleeve tees in winter, a hat.
A hat would work
A hat would
year
work.
round.
Vest, honestly, I think, can't you get like these construction vests at
Yeah.
Lowe's for $10?
We can get like a screen print on the back that
Maybe
says like
so.
Scio preserves park monitors.
But appropriately concerned, you know, you could wear those in the summer or the winter because you can just put them over
Right.
whatever you're
Put 'em over
wearing,
the
and
coat.
that's the easiest thing to see, I would say, so.
The hat and t-shirt sound kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, Shoes.
We know, Liz.
We can get, you know how you do, you earn your t-shirt or earn your hat, you
That's what
start
you-
out with the
Right, there you
vest.
go.
How many hours?
I like that.
That's pretty much what the city, the annual city map does, right? You get so many points, you can get a t-shirt or a
Oh,
hat.
really?
know that.
Yeah, so it's and also the county gives you t-shirts when you do a volunteering in the parks. But in App City, I have a hat and a t-shirt and a sweatshirt and, you know.
nice.
Great.
Yeah, Anna did it where if you volunteered 3 times, you got a t-shirt. So and there was a box of t-shirts. I don't know if they're.
I'm not sure we have many left, but I know that Sunrise Printing still has her design on file, so they could easily make more t-shirts. Alright,
Well, maybe start out with the best would seem like probably the cheapest.
Okay.
Wherever you're. around.
Quickest, easiest.
And
too, you know?
sizing,
Yeah,
and sizing,
Right.
so you,
right.
you know, the.
Just get them
unisex
extra
fit.
big, because obviously you gotta put them over your winter coat versus your summer coat,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or no coat.
Summer coat.
Yeah. No coat.
All right.
All right, let's move on to unfinished business. Starting with Gary Vander Hagen and family signage at West Scio Preserve.
And we have invited Gary here today.
Okay.
Gary. Gary and I spoke on the phone last week about, we went through a few of the options that we had talked about at the previous meeting. And I also spoke with Mariah about, just making sure that we fulfill what was explicitly laid out in the contract. And so Gary and I had spoken about, I forgot to bring what I had written down, but a sign at the trailhead that said Vanderhagen Forest or Woods type, I can't remember, Vanderhagen.
Woods, or I think you said Vanderhagen Trailhead or something like
Yeah,
that.
so it was either of those two, Vanderhagen Trailhead or Vanderhagen Woods, a sign at the beginning of the park. And then the third thing I had suggested was,
Homestead.
yes, like a plaque, kind of like a square plaque with, and then on top of it would say former Vanderhagen homestead, but and your preferred was.
One of the other two.
Was it a homestead? So.
No.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
That's the reason why.
I said, I didn't think it was homestead. What's homestead? That was
West, it's the West Scio Preserve.
The what?
Yeah,
West Scio
We're talking
Preserve.
West Scio Preserve.
yes. So of the two that you were in favor of, which one was your more preferred option?
Probably the trail, but really either one will be fine.
Okay.
If you have a technique already or a way of doing it now, that's fine.
I just mostly wanted to make sure everybody got a chance to ask you any questions as well about the situation, if anybody has any.
Because last time, the tricky part was West Scio Preserve is multiple. It's been accumulated over time over multiple parcels, correct? Is that the correct statement?
Yes.
And then a portion of it was the portion that we have the contract with. So that's why I can't really rename the whole Scio Preserve,
Right.
because the preserve is big. This was a portion, so naming a portion of it, like you said, the forest or the preserve or the trailhead would be, it seems like.
Is this at the south end of Dino Drive? Is that where? it is?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
and
about 30 acres back off of Dino.
so Dino is at the north end. And the woods, that 30 acres of those woods belong to your family.
Either side of it at the end of the developed area. On the south side,
Either side of what?
either side of Dino Drive. Go down Dino Drive, it's developed down about quarter mile. And then after that, there's another quarter mile or so. It was that, either side of that. That's what the property was.
But your family owns some of the property that is now businesses. Is that what you're saying?
No, it was always, I didn't acquire it until a lot of the businesses ran or started, and then I got the last 30 acres back there.
But the
Goes all the
very
way
end of
back to
Dino
the-
Drive, right at the end of the road to the south is where
Right.
the land is. So
You go back
basically
to the
with
turn
preserve.
about there,
Yeah, yeah.
and then there's another, almost a half a mile, 3/8 of a mile or so. So you hit another fence line. So it's both sides of that, a trail winds around in there.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a nice spot.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Yeah.
I like
Well, I
that.
appreciate Murphy. When I worked with a consultant, I think it was Barry. We talked about, he said, do you want to have your name on it? I said, well, we might. And it was in the original agreement we had, but then when we signed the final agreement, it was missed. So I called Murphy and said, is it possible, And she was very kind to say, I think so, we'll talk about it. So that's why I'm here.
Signage that helps educate people as to what the land
Yes.
was or it's used for, or who owned it, those sorts of things, some historical context.
So we have a kiosk out there, right?
Yes, there's.
So you could, not only by naming it, but what you're saying is, when we put this name up there, people are like, what's this? But have a little bit of information.
It might be nice to have a sheet that explains the history.
Right.
Would you be able to write up like your understanding of the history of the property before it was sold?
I could. I think it's got a pretty shallow history for the most part, but I could.
That would be really helpful.
But I think the kiosk is a good idea because if there's other property that's off to the west, you could show that on there too, and the trail goes and that may want a name on it too.
For how long did did you or your family own it?
About 40 years.
And during that time, it was just woods? Is that right?
We planted a few trees in there on and off and stuff like that, but that was about it.
You know what it was, what the property was before your ownership?
I think a portion of it in the back was farmland.
And south,
Yeah.
right, that's it.
And then there's in between stuff that's, wasn't really wetlands, but it was not farmable.
Right, a lot of it's pretty wet back there.
So what were their options? What are our options again?
To have something at the trailhead that says, or to like adjacent to the trailhead, depending on which one. So the first one could be Vanderhagen Woods, and it would be a sign near the trailhead. Like, there'd be the trail here, and then like here, we would have a sign that's like Vanderhagen
Right.
Woods. Or to rename one of the trails that exists now, and then one of the trails, especially the one that leads into the preserve, would be the Vanderhagen Trailhead, Vanderhagen Trail.
If there's multiple trailheads in there, because I think ours goes back and then it meets up with another one.
Yeah.
The woods is fine too, not picky, you know?
No. Because like you said, the trail keeps going, and when it's at stop and start type. Also making a trail, it's gonna go this way too, right? Are we making a trail that goes to the east?
Right, no,
Makes
yeah,
the trail-
yes.
Maybe the woods.
The woods are the whole thing now, right? So
Yeah, does the woods imply that the whole,
Well, if you did the map, then you could identify what
Okay.
portion of the South Reserve was the
right?
Yeah.
Vanderhagen Woods.
The woods make sense in terms of trying to do that if we're gonna.
And then you could identify it, right?
What action are you looking for to, this evening, Murphy? A motion or money or what?
Just a motion so we know, and that way Gary also knows what direction we're definitely gonna go in, and then we have a solid plan.
So in other words, trail versus woods?
Yes, as long as everyone is comfortable with those two options.
I think the woods is fine if we do that, but I like the idea of having a map there, so it doesn't imply that the whole thing.
Yeah,
It
right.
just get really
I
confusing, like, wait a
agree.
minute. But I think if it's designated, you know, if it's clear on that there's an area that was the vendor.
Yeah.
There's Chris pulled it up.
Okay.
So that's what you get with the map, you could, yeah, you could easily identify, shade it, color it, and then identify, because it seems like the other portions of other preserves, like, okay, this is this portion of this greater Scio preserve. The Scio
Yeah.
preserve is gonna probably continue to grow, but this portion.
And I like that too, 'cause one thing that I like about NAP's parks and preserves is like on their website, it does have a really detailed history of what that land has been for, you know, many, many years before it was the preserve. So this would be a good start to that.
Was it both of those parcels? Yeah. There's a line going down the center, you're saying those two parcels that
Yeah,
east and west?
where's the road end down there? Down at the bottom?
Down the top.
Up the top.
Well, that's-
It goes down to where the woods,
Yeah.
essentially where the wood starts.
Uh-huh.
Here's Dino Drive, here's the cul-de-sac. So there's a parcel here and a parcel here. Are these the two parcels?
Yeah, right up to the very top of that, yeah. And back to the fence line at the bottom.
Potentially, yeah. And
There
this
it is.
is ultimately sort of South Preserve, but it's not part of, was not part of his. These are other parcels that he acquired over,
Okay, so we've established it's this parcel and this.
I believe so, I'm not.
That makes sense.
I'm just going on what he's saying. I mean, so we can do history before, we're not making the map today. Before we made the map, this,
It's two rectangles, one's
there you
about
go.
15 acres, one's about
Yeah,
16.
so I think this one, and since, we acquired these other ones, but that would be. That
I like the name Woods rather than trail, because it's more descriptive. Trail, you can maybe name that later.
So if we're gonna call it the Vanderhagen Woods with the not exception, but kind of exception of, we have to have historical signage on the kiosk explaining which part is the Vanderhagen. Woods.
That's what I.
Okay,
feel
I think that sounds good.
And with a map showing the whole preserve and then
Yeah.
coloring that.
It can be colored.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Color, make
That's
one,
a good
this
idea.
color, one green or
Makes it
whatever.
even easier.
Whatever the colors
Yeah.
are.
Explain which
Color
part
coded.
is Vanderhagen, why we're naming it that, because
Right.
Vanderhagen sold it to Scio and in
In
recognition
two
of
thousand
that.
and blank, I don't know when that happened, but whatever.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Doesn't have to be extensive history, but just some, so it's like, oh, that's one.
do we need a motion or something to
I'd
move
love to
this
refer-
forward?
I don't know if I can do that as a non-voting member.
But that's
Well,
what
we
you do.
can- I'll make a motion.
Yeah,
I move that we. Do we have to recommend it? Or do we, can
Is
we
this
just
something
do
we have
it?
to get?
I think, I don't know.
Because we're
Just-
recommending that.
Yeah, we're recommending that.
Does it takes money to create the sign, right?
Would it be under 5,000?
I would
Oh,
just
sure.
do it.
Well, especially if it's already in the contract, it's not like. we're
It
doing
is,
something-
we're really
We're not
fulfilling a
making big
contract.
changes.
I
We're
move that
really
we-
fulfilling a contract.
I move that we name 30 acres acquired from the Vanderhagen family, Vanderhagen Woods, and add appropriate signage to West Side Preserve to describe it.
At the Dino Drive location, since
Yeah.
it has become quite a.
Yeah.
And I would second that.
That makes sense.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, you got called vote.
Oh,
You could just do a voice vote.
I just say, yeah, I'll pay.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I will work with Murphy to work up a little short history.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming
I
in.
appreciate you being so cooperative,
Oh, sure.
because you could have said, forget it, you know?
Oh, no way.
Okay, very good. Okay. So now we're gonna, move on to the, capital improvement, briefing.
Yeah, thank you. We'll be in touch.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Thank you all. And we've kind of had, that was a pretty good briefing, but I don't know if we want to go over some of the numbers.
Yeah, if anybody has questions or concerns or things that I've missed or things that we don't think maybe are appropriate for whatever year.
Well, we just walk through,
Sure, yeah.
you can sort of obviously describe and walk through and tell us a little bit about. That's right.
Sure. So the first one, the Deep Road Phase 5 is a carryover from the capital improvement plan. That this was one of the only items on it from the previous year. And so we're just carrying it over because like, as far as I know, the engineering cost that was budgeted has already been used for the engineering of that phase, but no construction or anything that's been done. So that is just a carryover from the previous year.
On that project, it seems like we've talked about this for at least 2 or 3 years. It seems like at some point, we need to give OHM some deadlines. Cause it's just, each year goes by, it's like, oh, what have we done? And actually, we met with some of the property owners out there, they are interested,
Mhm.
and they might not be there forever. They've signed some
Good point.
easements, we need some more
Right.
easements from them, and we, you know, they're supportive.
Are those easements dated, by the way? Do they have
Well,
an
the first
expiration?
ones were, but we need to get them to sign some additional
Okay,
easements.
right.
But it seems like we should, not that we're gonna do that today, but give them that,
Mhm.
okay, each quarter, cause why aren't we getting close to
Mhm.
starting part of this project? Cause it's like, it's
Another
from
good
where they
question.
left off to across the bridge. And then there's like 2 pieces across the bridge and then up the bridge and through Sweepster up to the railroad track. Those are almost like 2 phases.
Right,
We
so-
need to get at least going on the bridge and.
Can we
down.
really do that before the Amtrak or whoever it is that says?
Well, that's what we've always talked about doing, because if you wait
Okay.
till you do Amtrak,
Yeah.
this would be
You'll
a
wait
twenty
forever.
twenty-eight
That's
project.
right, so we're not waiting for that. We're just trying to get up to
Yeah, because
Amtrak at
let's
this point.
keep, you know,
Cause
take
whoever
bites at the apple
Paladin
and-
slash Sweepster has allowed or agreed to the sweep around the way, when OHM came and made a presentation a few months ago.
Right.
Show us that map. Are we all in agreement of getting across the river, going around through Paladin and stopping at the tracks right at this point?
Well, at least
Are we-
getting, in my opinion, at least getting across the tracks, we need to finalize that with Paladin, because I think the last time we got with them was like nearly 3 years ago.
No, that's what I'm asking. So you're saying get across the river, great, I agree, but getting across the river means going along and then crossing through Paladin. And what are some of the next things that because I'll go
Well, I think we
over
need
to
to
Paladin
do
with you if you
Paladin
want.
also.
Yeah, okay.
Get that, or, I was saying, at least
Yeah.
making progress on this thing, it just seems like,
Mhm.
because I mean, each year we wait, you're adding 10% cost.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like, okay, this $2 million project at 210,
Yeah,
220,
exactly.
230.
Yeah,
And
so good
and
question.
the other thing is, money we got from the state has limits of when we gotta spend it.
I would imagine,
And
yeah.
I know it does. And
Yeah.
If we don't act on it, we're gonna be giving the state back a couple $1 million because
Let's not do
we
that.
didn't act.
So
So
Steve,
we were-
what can you do? You're saying you can do something?
Well, no, I knew one of the property owners, so I was happy to call, set up a meeting. Chris and Roy and I went, so spoke to one of the property owners who had already signed an old easement and that we're gonna need to update a new one, and he was happy to sign it. So all I'm saying is, as we now inch our way down to the river and across the river, the next, I guess, company that we've gotta, make sure they're on board still is Paladin. I mean, I'll call them and see if, unless somebody already has talked to them and there's something on record that I could refer to, and I'll be happy to call Paladin and say, hey, you guys said yes 3 years ago.
I feel like a lot of this like the ball got dropped when Anna left but I feel like OHM has, presented something and I honestly, it just has been too long. I don't
They
remember.
did present something, and I was under the impression at the time they presented it to us, that the only reason, well, no, you know what, they had a plan A and a plan B. And plan A was to cross over Zeeb and try to come up the other way, which was messy. Nobody wanted to do that. Or do the Paladin thing, come along the river and then come up. And for some reason, I thought they said that they had presented it to Paladin and that Paladin was at least aware of it, if not approved it, but now I can't remember. And all I'm saying is,
We need to
maybe
revisit.
I'll call OHM, find out how far they got, and if they need somebody to
Or
call.
Chris or Murphy, if someone could come,
Yeah,
I'll give OHM a call.
Okay.
And I'll make a presentation,
Okay.
update
because
it
we can
next
look
week.
back, I mean, they
Absolutely.
came here,
I'd
what,
give that.
August or September or whenever on it.
Yeah, it was a few months ago.
Now, here we are 6 months later.
Yeah,
and has
nothing.
anything happened?
Right.
I don't know, might have been even.
So I'll get an
June.
Yeah, but I agree, let's do it.
okay, we need to revisit that.
Yeah.
Big time. So, okay. All right, should we go on? Marcia?
Sure, yeah. So the next project is stormwater management and native species landscape bioswales essentially for Lithia. This is in fulfillment of their agreement, their development agreement, that they will install stormwater management and bioswales. They'll fill their bioswales with native species and add educational signage to explain the importance of native species and why they have bioswales. And that's all funded through them.
What's the location?
Where is this, yeah?
It's out
Lithia,
on Jackson.
I think it's a dealership, like a
It's
Tesla
the-
dealership.
It's the dealerships that are being built.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
It's really
Yeah,
big.
the electric.
I think this was part of their PUD.
Where's,
wasn't it?
okay,
It is.
West Delhi, where Approach and. or used to-
Well,
On the north side.
BMW and
Lane Road.
3 additional are moving there. It's the dealerships that are under construction is Lithia.
They're currently west of Wagner and they're moving to east of Wagner, is that what you're saying?
This is, I thought.
Not Wagner, Delhi. So,
West
you know,
Delhi,
yeah, all 3 of them there's 3 of them under construction. One's
just down from
further-
IHA,
Basically on Jackson Road.
yeah,
Down
north side of
Jackson
Jackson Road, yep.
Yes.
Oh,
so The huge-
Yeah.
West of IHA, that's what,
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
seen
Yes.
something being
Oh,
built.
that's
I
what
didn't know
that is.
it was.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The dealership.
Okay.
This is.
And it's Suburban is behind it.
All right.
My plan for that sum is I just kind of used the landscaping work that was done here with creating sustainable landscapes and just kind of extrapolated from that.
Did they commit in their community benefits, did they commit to the outcome or did they commit the dollar amount?
The outcome,
The outcome,
yes.
that Scio does it or they do it?
They do it under the advisement of whoever's in my position.
So why would we put funding in it?
We're not. So the way that it's, so you'll see township share is 0%.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Zero. Okay.
Yeah, I
And that's
see
township
that.
share mean parks? When you say township, you mean parks money?
Parks, correct.
Okay.
Yep. That's how Jessica had suggested that I do the Lithia and just put 0% for township share.
Okay.
So if that's not accurate, I can change.
Well,
the-
it's not about, it's not about accurate or inaccurate. It's that you're not looking for that funding.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
that's.
kind of confusing.
And I see the 0%. I mean, it says exactly what you want, but,
Would
Okay.
it be a better way to do it? I mean,
Well, it seems like you should have a line item
Yeah.
showing what outside money versus inside money,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
yeah,
That's
because
generally
if
how I
it
would
goes
do
in
it.
front of, someone's gonna
Because
like,
you look at your budget, say, oh, it's 2.9 million, but really, a lot of that, same with the state money on Zeeb Road. How much of it's already state money and how much of it's coming out of our millage? Cause at the end of the day, we get what, $800,000 or $900,000, so at the end of the day, we need to budget that accordingly and how much is rollover. So it seems like there's a needs to be another column.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
agree.
Chris, could you follow up or help? Because if, because it's, Jessica and Plant that are pulling this all together, you want to have consistency. So it's not, I don't think for us to change if that's the format they're using, but it's,
Not very, this, without those extra columns, it's not very clear.
well, I agree. That's why when I looked at it, it's like, it looks like we're gonna have to budget 25 for that and that's not accurate. So it just worked to make sure from a,
Where is this gonna happen? I mean, it's a dealership, so I guess it's, in my mind, it's gonna be hard for education because when you go to dealership, you're really not, I mean, it's not like you're gonna be walking around the dealerships like, oh, wow, that's really nice native planting.
but is it really at that location or is it
Yes.
like the tree fund where you can put
No,
money
no, it's
somewhere
at their
else?
location.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah.
it's probably not gonna be out front, cause out
No,
front's
you're
every
right.
cars,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They're gonna
Yeah.
Have their Land Rover
Yeah.
and, I don't know, just,
It seemed like there was a little space
Yeah.
on the side that was not gonna be used for something, and that's from what I remember.
okay,
when
so
this
there might
was
be an
Really, really.
opportunity for
long time
education. I'm just
ago.
saying, you're walking on the sidewalk, it's like, you're not, you're probably gonna be able to see it, right? Or maybe you
someone
can.
must have negotiated these.
I know, it's not, it's
Yeah,
not,
yeah.
done. It is what it is.
Someone-
In
yeah,
the
it's-
future.
Create a
Like-
sign out on the road saying, walk back here for education on, yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
It was a little more clear a few years ago what it was, but it's, you know, lost a little bit of its weight.
It should be in the
With us.
PUD.
It should
It
be.
is, that's where I
It
got
would
this.
be in the, yeah, it would be in the PUD, but yeah.
Maybe some sort of drawing that shows what
Yeah.
we're doing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, we can keep going,
Okay.
sorry.
The next two are, Township Hall Park Playground, phase 2 and 3. If you would be interested in kind of the breakdown for each of those, we can go over that really quickly.
But this is DDA money, the
It's
two
DDA.
fifties?
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
So this
so
is stuff we're
that's-
doing right now, right? Or has that already been budgeted, the phase?
This financially, budget-wise, this is done.
Okay, this is future things.
Yes.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right, that's fine.
So for phase 2, and this is totally open for negotiation, it's not like set in stone, but this is how I got the figures. We have for phase 2, and I spoke with Dan again from MRC to figure out the cost associated with each of these. So for phase 2, we have the clamber log pile will be similar to the one at Barton Dam, scaled way down. So we'll probably be looking at 3 to 4 logs for that clamber pile. Then we will be doing, in theory, topography play, so they would kind of change the way the landscaping is to incorporate kind of play however you feel like over there, which is good. Then there's a really cool thing, I really like it, again, these will be up for us to kind of talk about when it gets closer to that, but then there's the timber dome that MRC uses often in their natural playscapes. I really like them. There's other options. We don't have to use a manufactured timber dome, but that's one that Dan really likes to incorporate, and I liked it a lot. Then other costs come from site prep. And I just mirrored that from the site prep costs that we have for phase one. Then,
That's year one.
yes,
So just on phase two, so just to clarify, phase one, which is under, so the walking path, all the sidewalks back here, that's all was in this year's budget, so it'll just roll over to next year, is that what you're saying?
I think that by the time April first comes around, we will at least be started on all of this. So I'm just planning on rolling over the amount of money that was approved by the board to complete that project and then just rolling it over.
Okay.
And so we'll put it in the budget, but that fund, those funds already exist right now.
From our current 2024.
Yeah,
And sidewalks is part of this phase one, that's what you're talking about? And are they 8 feet wide or 5 feet
they're
wide?
sidewalks.
Okay.
So
Okay,
they're 5 feet.
okay.
They're not so much bike trails.
Okay, somebody I thought had a suggestion that if you're gonna do it, make it 8 feet. Not that you would necessarily now stripe it for bikes and all that, but that it would just not be that much more money to add the width, and you then already have infrastructure for whatever future extra things that you might think of, you know?
So the sidewalk that's gonna be concrete or cement, I'm not sure what it's, concrete, those will be 5 feet.
Mhm.
But the actual walking path will still be 8 feet.
Okay,
It's
Okay.
just to preserve space on the outside of the parking lot so that we still have that space wide enough that we can choose to
Okay.
use it however we
Okay.
need to. But yeah, and then the sidewalk will have to cross again to get to the bathroom, so keeping it at 5 feet is just more manageable.
Okay.
So that's,
and
The
that's all
rationale.
an ADA compliant, right? It's
Yes.
all set, okay,
Yep.
great, okay.
And the walking path around, is that soft surface or paved, is that?
that'll be soft surface. That's the kind of gravel that we had talked about. Yeah.
Crushed limestone.
Has OHM started designing that, so they could bring that in?
They've
someday?
done, so they have their surveyors out here already, so as far as I know, it's
Okay.
underway.
It'd be nice to have them bring that into this committee.
Sure, do you
Yeah,
want us to
Either
next week?
January or February
Sure
meeting, so,
would.
yeah. so we know.
Because, I mean, we also had DDA commission someone to come up with 3 different plans on how to use the space, and the walkway around it was always gonna be the borderline, that was never gonna change, but how we use the space then inside that and how we change it, so obviously the playground with Michigan Play Space, is that the name of them? However, they start altering the terrain and doing that in a certain spot, then affects the flyers, it affects,
Well,
whatever. Oh,
I don't think that MRC is actually gonna change. the
oh, I
contour.
misunderstood. that.
They're
Sorry.
going to play with the contour is what I
Okay.
understand, is
Yeah.
that it was just because there is a drop down.
Uh-huh.
And he's gonna incorporate that into whatever kind of design he comes up with.
So the
Yeah.
play space has a space, and we've been out there a few times, kind of thinking, yeah, that's a good place for that and so on, but it's been laid out and it's set to where it's going to be.
Phase 2 and 3 have not, so they're still very much in the brainstorming phase.
Mhm.
What am I trying to say? The individual pieces
Mhm.
of that are also, it's just, we're just playing with it right now.
Okay.
And location, nothing set in stone.
Mhm. Okay,
So like ideally, if OHM develops a plan, and then we know phase one is going here in this pod, right? Let's say phase two could be this pod, and phase three, this pod or whatever.
Mhm.
And that'd be helpful to have MRC's information provided with OHM, so we could
Right.
bring back to this committee, so that visually it's like, oh, you know what I mean? Then we can
Right.
actually share with the township board. So it'd be nice to
Yep.
maybe
Okay.
have that by
Yep.
February.
nice, it would,
Yeah, I think that's where, like, he would like to incorporate a slide into that
oh,
as part
okay.
of it. So
Well,
that's just something.
That sounds
just an
wonderful. I
example.
just want to make sure that somebody's slide isn't getting in the way of someone's flight path. And, you know,
No.
we have these different things happening.
Right, the flyers.
It would be nice to just button it up and.
That's why we're
Yeah.
using that section, is
Right.
because it's
No, I'm,
not part of the field.
okay.
Okay, let's move on to the
Yep.
next piece. Okay.
Okay, so the next one is the Township Hall Park Pavilion. The number I know is arresting. So before I go into explaining the cost, the way that I broke it down, and if it needs to go out more years before it becomes a feasible sum of money, that is what we'll do. But for this upcoming year, I was just going to automatically plan to set aside 100,000 to put in a pot that goes towards the pavilion, either when we build it in 2026, 27, or the following year. That number has come from both OHM, and then I had spoken with Brandon from utilities. At his time in Clio, he said that when they built their pavilion, which also, again, this is all up for discussion, had 2 bathrooms installed there. That's where a lot of the cost is gonna come from, because in general, I think that we've kind of been in agreement that we wanted to at least run electricity out there. So if we're gonna have a pavilion, it should probably have electricity. We're gonna have it just for all of these potentially like really flexible, like birthday parties, sustainability fest, maybe a farmer's market type situation, then we'll make sure we have electricity. And if we're gonna run electric out there, in my mind, it just makes sense to run water and sewer out there to put in bathrooms. Across the street, the Washtenaw, what is it called? Washtenaw County Water
Commission.
Or the one here.
Water, the
Resource Commission.
Okay,
Water Resource
so
Commission.
they're going to be running utilities to their own pole barn or something like that, and so they're gonna have to be digging up this road, and so what we were thinking is, they're gonna be running it past where our parking lot goes. But we were thinking about having it capped, so that we have access to that line already, so that we don't have to then run our own, figure out how to run our own utilities. So I'm gonna talk to them about making sure that it's capped. It'll be like at a fee, probably around like, I don't know, 20,000. I don't know yet. I have to still ask. But
We know what's size of a pavilion is contemplated for 1.6 million?
the size, no, I'm not entirely sure.
And by the way, is that 1,600 or 1.6 million? Because it looks like 1,600.
Oh,
That's a lot of money.
it is.
Oh, I see. It's because the dots or the decimals. Okay, never
Oh, I
mind.
So it
God,
does,
look at ya.
it does depend on what we see the function of that space being. Because I know in the past, though, all those things that I said are things that we've considered using that space for. And so if the idea is to make this park a more attractive space for more community focused events, then it is going to come with a higher sticker price, because sure, we have this one bathroom, that's true. But I mean,
That's not-
realistically, if we're gonna try to get more people out to the pavilion, using it for birthday parties, et cetera, I think it makes sense to incorporate 2 bathrooms out
And
there.
if we have soccer fields and things like that, I mean, if we're really gonna put things out there, which
I'm not sure exactly that's it really moving forward.
well, I don't know, but I
At this
mean,
point, maybe not.
let's
but-
say 5 years from
Yeah,
now,
Right.
it comes back around and the
Mhm.
new board says, yep, we want that.
Mhm.
But anyway, if you're really looking at the future, I think that having bathrooms on that pavilion is a good idea from what I've seen at the last, when I went up and looked at what MRC did at, up by Howell, between Howell and Brighton,
Right, Genoa Township.
Survivor Park.
Yes.
And that, I mean, it looks like that pavilion, when they did that, that was back in the day before he did the Survivor part of it. It's just pavilions, and they do have fields out there. Not that it's like comparing apples and oranges at this point, but still, I think looking at the future, it's something that we should probably be mindful of.
So the 1.6 is a number that has been kind of done a fair amount of estimating to get there, and with the help of OHM and others, and that includes the bathrooms, the electricity, the water,
Yes,
all that, right? That's,
Yes.
yeah, okay, I see.
But this
Okay.
is up for adjustment in the future.
it is. And so I don't love this number myself. And so after talking with Brandon a little bit, he had suggested that if we're gonna have maybe 2 to 3 years before we even start really making big moves on the pavilion, then that gives us, even if we don't wait that long, time to reach out to local businesses and see if they might be willing to donate certain things, like donate the cement or concrete. I don't, is there a difference between?
Cement is an ingredient in concrete.
Okay, so donate the concrete for the floor of the pavilion, as long as like on one of the beams of the pavilion, we say donated by
So
such
they
and
can
such.
sponsor it. We can
Uh,
get sponsorship.
That's the
Sure.
idea.
And yeah, they've done that in some other part in Chelsea.
Right.
And I'm gonna see if we qualify for any grants
Mhm.
for it. And I'm not familiar with pavilion type grants or anything like that, but I'm looking at community service grants. And if anybody has ideas, please let me know, because I'm not familiar enough with
I know
something like that, but.
the county parks, we have pavilions, usually we have them at like our water parks and places, so you can rent them out. So there's actually a revenue that comes
That's
back.
the plan.
And I guess also when we have metro parks, they have pavilions right up the street here. So I guess I'd want to look at, what are we, because are you building a pavilion? You're spending a lot of money, $1.6 million, it's gonna be underutilized, that. Just knowing there's other pavilions, how often are the metro parks pavilions rented? And are you gonna ever get that? Not that you're gonna get it all back. But, and then having bathrooms that far out becomes can be a concern. Then we're gonna probably have to make roads that go out there.
Mhm.
So it's like, I guess when I envisioned a pavilion, I was thinking more of just one canopy was, it's like
Okay.
$200,000, you can build a nice pavilion.
I think that's kind of.
Couple picnic tables.
And you put picnic
Yeah.
tables
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
yeah.
This is I would call this the Grand Pavilion vision. Which may be a good
Agreed.
vision, I don't know, it's beyond what I can see.
Do people feel like it's at all appropriate, or do you think that for this space, it is too extravagant?
I think that some people are gonna feel like it is.
But I'd like to know what you all
Mhm.
think. You-
I think it's too extravagant
I
at
did
this time, I mean, maybe.
Down the
well, most of us are gone, maybe that'll be what happens, but I don't really see that.
Okay, I think it would be cool, but are we going to actually be able to achieve that? And my question is if we just build a pavilion out there, can we add bathrooms or do them a little separately? They don't have to be part of the pavilion, can they just be a little further out there somehow?
I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know
at
the
a
answer to
later
that.
date.
I mean, you could build a pavilion and then build a building for the bathrooms later next to it.
And that's true, like we could even, instead of having them attached to the pavilion, go through that kind of like scrubby wooded area and just build and, clear some of that out and have two side by side separate bathrooms.
I've had a comparison is Dexter here on Metro Park. I live across the street from it. I go there a lot. And in the summer, on a really nice summer day, there's hundreds of people there. And in the winter, there's 0 to 2 people there, which is fine. But they have bathrooms there, and in the summer, at the peak of occupancy and all these people on the trail, there are a lot of people. The bathrooms are used, the pavilions are used, people have family gatherings and cookouts. And it seems to be appropriately scaled. I don't see our park here as attracting as many people, because there you have the river, it's a big draw.
Yeah,
And again, during the summer and during the winter, there's no one there. And then peak weekend days, during the week, not many people. On a weekend day, the parking lots will fill up a few times during the summer, and people have a good time. And I just don't see that as a township park. Township park has a use, but it's not gonna doesn't have the river.
Yeah, we don't have
Sure.
a chief and Sanger.
It doesn't have a river, and
I
it doesn't
think
have
if
a
you
path
went
that
back
goes to
to
Dexter and to
Our
Delaware.
master plan, the
Rose plan.
pros plan, I don't think that was ever talked about as far as the pavilion that I could recall.
Well, and what I think about
That,
with our scale, it's like we're at Gallup, back by the fishing pond, they have a beautiful pavilion, but they just have a very modest set of bathrooms there. And I don't think they're compost, but they could be, which
that'd be great.
the compost toilets they have them at Leslie Science Center, and all you have to do is throw wood chips in to keep things in balance.
Mhm.
So it does take a little maintenance, but it's not as high in plumbing. Anyway, that's something to think about later, but it's the size and the scale of the bathrooms are a little more primitive than what happens out at Dexter Huron.
Yeah, they must have a septic tank. They have a well out there. I suppose they have a septic system.
So I'm new, but there's not an intermediate step where you just go to the porta potty around? Then you just have it
well,
at
sure,
high season, yeah.
Possible, yeah.
we do, our first step is we are converting we have two bathrooms back here. We're actually upgrading one to be open for.
And that will.
Right, but it's just like, that gives you that's just,
The other
that's just a
bathroom.
pad, and then so when, the bathrooms tell you need them, it's not if they build it, they will come, because there's lots of places for people to go.
Like,
Great, yeah, it's a
in
good.
5 years, like, wow, this use of this pavilion is growing substantially. It's like, well, probably should, 5 years from now, look at building these bathrooms that were Murphy's vision 5 years ago.
I think it requires some more, the visioning
Right,
part of it. Because you go back to the millage, what is it that people
That's the
Vo-
point.
voted.
I hadn't thought about that.
for? It's not to say that it would not pay for a pavilion, but go back to what people actually voted for and expect. And then visioning around what's the pavilion going to do, because once you get into having groups reserve and or pay, you're now running an operation that takes money and labor, and it changes the vision.
Security, and you take security too.
Yes, so, so there's a big leap to go from an open shelter, enjoyable shelter that you can be under, with some picnic tables, to having it rented and reserved. And it's totally different model and cost.
So I think we've talked enough to, we can readdress that another in the future. Let's move on to tractor and its attachments, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I think it would be good to also go down to number 8 and understanding that part of the money that will likely be used to purchase the tractor with the attachments will come from the selling of the Kubota tractor that we have now. The Kubota was purchased 75% Parks Fund, 25% between however utilities is broken up, so like sewer and water and however their stuff's broken up. So we do own most of the tractor. So in selling it, we would then get 75% of the revenue from that.
What is the tractor used for now?
Currently, the tractor is used for putting the brush on it and clearing off the wooden boardwalks for the zebra pathway.
Oh, okay.
so is Kubota tractor too small, so you get a bigger tractor?
Is too small, yes.
And what do you know what model you have now?
The model we have now, it's like the LX2, I had it written down, 4026 or something like that.
So it's not really costing us $25,000 to sell it.
It's not costing us, no, that's
That's a negative,
that's
isn't it?
the,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is the
in-
new tractor too big to then brush the sow or the zebra
No,
pathway?
so I checked to see if it would still have a brush attachment on it, and it will. And the way that the Kubota, the size of the Kubota, you have to do 2 passes, which is fine
Oh,
to clear the
okay.
whole thing, but with this one, we'd probably be able to just do 1
Oh, okay.
with the length.
What
And-
else is it used for besides the,
What would
Brush.
the other one be used for?
yeah, the new one?
The new one, so there is a lot of heavy invasive species removal that needs to be done in a lot of the parks, and I would use.
So you could get a trailer for it and take it around and use it a brush hog with it?
Yes, exactly. We need a brush hog that is able to combat especially at Liberty Pond, the massive amount of clearing that has to get done.
So heavy mowing at Liberty Pond and.
It's just not gonna be enough. And we need something that can also tackle some of the larger diameter shrubby species. And in theory, we could spread that work out over the next 5 to 7 years, and doing it incrementally with a mower. But after we met with Dave Borneman, and it's not just Liberty Pond, it's just the one I'm using as an example, because it is so bad. But even doing burns at a place like that is borderline useless, because there's so much thatch over everything that they're not even sure they could get down to the soil. So we need to, he said, before they would even try a burn, we would need to do massive amounts of brush hogging, which we could do. I haven't found a place that will rent it. I know that Anna had been able to use one in the past, but they don't do that anymore. It's just,
Looking at your numbers, Murph, so the tractor with the attachments is saying 60,000.
yes.
That's both tractor and.
And
the bu-
attachments.
And the attachments. And we wouldn't share it with utilities anymore.
So the cost to purchase it, no. And I feel strongly about doing it that way because we have the greater need and a lot of our time of use for it would overlap with when they would be
Okay.
using it. So Brandon and I had talked about and I kind of brought it to Jessica and she said that it's not possible, just because it's not how it works. But Brandon was thinking that we would have a contract where then he would allocate a certain amount of money to parks for you, like essentially renting the tractor.
Okay.
And does the township employ someone who operates the tractor?
I would. And then Brandon, whoever is on Brandon's utility team would also.
And do you have a trailer for the tractor now, or you get a
We
trailer?
don't, so we'd have to, and that's part
You
of
get
the
a trailer
cost
and you
too.
got there's a pickup truck and you drive it around. And
Yes, and Chris and I just confirmed that the truck we have now is capable of
Oh,
towing
yeah.
a tractor. Even so, the heaviest one that we could find, I have a model in mind, which is like the largest compact tractor that John Deere makes. So I still want it I don't need a massive tractor. We just need one that is large enough to tackle certain diameter, woody invasives. But our truck is more than capable of handling that.
Why do we need to get rid of the old one? Is there not any use for it?
It's gonna be a really difficult sell to the board, as I understand it,
No.
do you have 2 tractors?
to having 2 tractors.
Because we're
And
storing it. Let's go on to,
Okay.
We
let's
should
go
keep going,
back
'cause we-
to,
sorry,
the utility barn for storage. I'm assuming that's where all this equipment that we
Yes.
need to purchase, and we talked about putting that out. You're thinking about out here.
yes,
Okay, let's keep going because it's getting late. Is that okay?
yes.
Good. Okay, so we're going on to 9. So the parking lot, Park Road, parking lot engineering. Is that something we still need
That's
to
for the
do?
new, is that for the new,
The new
Park Road,
parking lot
Park Road.
for,
Scio Woods?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
So it's Stabler and Park Road.
okay,
Yes.
right, okay.
Yep,
All right, good, okay. And then, the Park Road parking lot, so that's there, yay, okay,
Fabulous.
all right,
Good for you, Murphy.
yeah.
that was Rita's call, so.
We've been chatting, okay, so we can go down to 11, which is South Church Parker Road Observation Deck Engineering. Do you want to explain that a little bit?
Yes, so Judy and I had been talking about ways to use so there's like that 4 corners where it's the 4 different townships. And there's a wetland there that often has waterfowl. And we were thinking it would be interesting to potentially have an observation deck that could attract birders. I'm not sure how feasible it is as it stands right now, because we don't actually own that property. It's a conservation easement. And then,
Close to Liberty Pond.
It's at the corner of Scio Church and Park.
Where 3 of them have
It's not
ponds and
close,
then
it's
one
all
big.
wetland on the floor.
Lodi and Lodi is.
I don't get down to that corner.
So
Yeah.
when people get there, if they
beautiful.
drive, where would they
Yeah.
drive?
and that's the biggest
Oh,
issue.
have to-
oh,
So
okay.
and I called Barry to talk to him about it a little bit too, just to understand what the easement is and then how the properties, the 4 parts, like 4 corners were. Cause there is a place that's for sale,
Mm.
but in the other township, so it's.
Ah,
not gonna
It's right
happen.
Because we only
South-
own one quadrant of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
Correct.
wet. I drove by it just to look at it. It's pretty wet, and I don't know how big our easement is, and if
Right.
there's enough room to pull a car over, like.
Yeah,
Maybe
there
one
is-
person-
It would need to be parking, because there's no parking, but people stop I live right.
I know, it
there.
would be a
People are-
great
they stop
idea.
all the time and they look at the swans, because
That's
there's
exactly-
comes every year, yeah.
Yeah,
It might have
Parking's a
to,
big challenge, 'cause I mean, at the road commission, we have a challenge keeping that road open, because it's, you know,
Right.
it's always
it's,
wet.
sometimes it's flooded and now
Yeah.
it's up above high, but there's been years when it's
Oh, I see, it's all
underwater.
wet.
So you have money attached to that 25 grand, and that's just like throwing a figure, is that right? Is that 25 grand?
It was just an estimate
An
for how
estimate
much it would
for-
cost for engineering, and I kind of used other engineering costs as like a template, but then I added an extra 5,000 just because I think that engineering for a wetland is probably more expensive, and doing anything around a wetland,
Mm,
I imagine, comes with more red
Probably,
tape, so.
yeah.
Probably.
I would suggest moving that out 1 year.
Out a year, okay,
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Mhm.
okay.
It's a fun idea.
It'll take some vetting.
Sure.
It's gonna take some, yeah, okay.
Mhm.
All right, let's move on. Let's see, where are we? 11, 12,
12.
boardwalk maintenance.
Yeah, 12 through
So-
15 are very straightforward. I just took the cost for what the estimates, not the estimates. What kind of an estimate? When LJ Construction came out, they gauged the status of all the segments of boardwalk. So we wouldn't have to pay to get another not study, but basically study done to figure out what needed to get done for each segment of boardwalk. So as long as we go with LJ Construction for each of the other years of maintenance on them, I just added 10%. I know that's too much, but 10% each
Each
year,
year, makes
so.
sense.
If I could suggest changing the word maintenance, because maintenance tends to be general funds. I mean, in-year funds, maintenance would be fixing a board or something. Isn't
It
this,
is.
yeah, but isn't this more of a, replace, this is more significant capital investment. I mean, this is what this is, capital investment.
Mhm.
So,
What word do you think would be more appropriate?
that's what I'm. thinking.
Repair, upkeep?
Is it actually a capital improvement?
It-
Capital has to extend the life of something a certain number of years.
Yeah,
If
but
it's not-
maintenance tends to be changing oil as opposed to,
So I guess the question is, yeah, is
Improvement.
sealing a deck
Improvement.
on a boardwalk considered maintenance, or is it really a capital improvement? Because if it's
Yeah.
capital improvement, that means you can depreciate it over time.
exactly. What work did they do out here? Was it in the in-year funding or was it in the improvement plan?
It was not in the plan, but what they did was replace boards. If there were screws and nails that had popped up, they took them out and replaced them. They resealed it. And
I'd use something like repair and replace then.
Okay.
And by putting in the word replace it, it really just has to get through a board review, so.
Okay.
Maintenance, yeah, because you could also put in your line item for maintenance. 'Cause
That's,
not in your it doesn't have to be in your capital.
Oh,
plan.
okay.
You could
Be
put
in-
your operating budget.
exactly.
Should I?
Annually.
No, leave it here.
Okay, okay.
Leave it here. Both places is better than not at all.
So let's move on to the next three look like they have to do with the tree fund.
Yes, so,
Yeah.
we already have the West Isle Preserve plan pretty well fleshed out. So that's the cost that we had proposed and got approved at the BOT when we were talking about the tree fund.
Mhm.
These others are something that I would really appreciate input on eventually. We don't have to do it now. But Liberty Pond Nature Area Reforestation, thinking about extending the forest where we're gonna be putting that trail, extending that out further. And in general, I'm envisioning it as being a large scale project. So that's why I have it at a higher cost. And then, yeah, definitely need help on this one. So the Van Curler Preserve, I was thinking that it might be worthwhile if we have the funds to take out the forest, the evergreen plantation, and incorporate native species there. I don't know.
Why would you do that?
Just so that we can put in native species instead of having a plantation, a remnant plantation.
Evergreen forest?
Pardon?
The evergreen forest?
Mhm.
I don't think it's native species though, right? It's just
Yeah,
a.
but there's a lot of
plantation.
birds up there.
And
I think it's.
There's an owl that flew over my head one time.
There's some time.
I'm
He
not
didn't,
I
he
know,
didn't
I
know
don't
you were an
think it's-
official representative of Scio Township,
Yeah.
so he
You didn't
was
have
telling you to
to
get back
test
on the path.
I think we need more
Yeah,
discussion on
yeah.
that one.
It was just,
Preliminary comment.
just thought.
The other thing that I don't see in here is a Van Curler pedestrian connection from Dexter Huron to Van Curler. And we've started on that like 2 years ago.
Okay,
And
I
that's
don't
the
know.
OHM project
I
that
don't know anything
sort
about
of
that.
like, basically from Dexter Huron walking path, so you can go into Van Curler, winding from Dexter Huron. We met out there a few times and
Yeah.
Yeah.
we
We
walked
walked down here on River Drive.
right with
We go-
OHM.
Yeah, or no, you went through the wetland part of
Yeah,
the
we
park
did.
and
We
we
kind of-
walked
I
along the
have
road,
been
I
through there
think we
several
did, yeah.
times.
Right, because there's really access to Van Curler off of Huron River Drive. There's nowhere to park, but you could park at Dexter Huron and walk in. So we'd have access from both sides, Metro Park and Joy Road
A
end.
trail from the Metro Park to join Vancouver would be.
And
And OHM started on the engineering, they've just never finished that, so it'd be nice to finish that and actually make that,
Mhm.
continue that project that we met with Metro
But,
Parks
I
on.
wonder if it's that, when I hear that they started but didn't go further, is maybe it didn't make it through Board of Trustees.
No.
But no, it was, I think we had a speed bump with the Metro Parks. There
Oh,
was a change
okay.
of staff.
Okay,
From what I understand, is that there was a little blip with that, and then they were like, nah,
Okay.
they're hesitant because they think that people are gonna go in and not pay somehow. Or that they're gonna come from Van Curler and go into the
Oh.
Metro Park without paying on foot, which.
Right, well, they weren't aware
You
that
can
we're,
already do that.
they weren't aware that we were building a parking lot at the north end. They thought
okay.
the only access was gonna be from their
I'm,
park.
I'm okay. Sometimes though, it's cut off at the Board of Trustees and,
Never got to the Board of Trustees.
okay.
Yeah,
Cause Anna was working on it, Anna left, then we,
Okay.
and so it's been,
It is
Yeah.
complicated.
it's
Yeah, it is
complicated,
complicated.
and there were some little blips with.
so I think OHM probably has a number.
Okay.
They've
Ask them
done,
for a number.
yeah, they've been working, doing some engineering on it for.
The one thing that can be done at Van Curler is we have a footpath that starts at Huron River Drive and goes in there. And recently there was some chain sign that took place, and that's part of it. Thank you for doing that. And, you could do a little more of that. It's not very high cost. And it's,
To open up that roadway, the walk, make that a walkway.
Oh,
Yeah.
so widen the entrance from Huron River Drive. Okay.
That's where it's gonna connect to Dexter here.
And we just had a lot of trees fall there, and we never went back and cleaned it up because we didn't want to encourage people to start using that because we don't have this whole thing sorted out yet. So that's the area that we didn't like make it so pristine. Inviting, so you have to
Yeah.
kind of climb over things, but
eventually that southern entrance, in my vision, it could be a non-motorized entrance. It could be a
Yes.
place you could walk
Walk
in,
in,
it could be a place you could park your bike and go for a walk. Or if we were to choose, allow people to ride their bikes on the path, but that's a different issue.
I would make a separate path.
Yeah, okay.
Mhm.
I'm
Okay,
not,
we'll argue about that again later.
But we can at least get OHM back on.
Okay.
With it.
Right, okay.
And, the, one that I don't see about, signage. We seem to be I see opportunity for more signage.
Okay.
That,
Well, yeah, actually, Chris and I spoke about that. We have plans for, and I meant to pull it up so you guys could see it. Do you think you could pull up that email I sent?
it's okay.
I just think it's gonna be under
You think it'll be,
25,000.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And we can look at that next time.
Yeah.
Something.
yeah,
So that's a good thing to
exactly,
come
as
back
long
to.
as,
Okay.
because signage is, something that,
Yeah,
would be
we
beneficial.
have some cool ideas.
okay,
so.
good. Okay, super.
And sorry, just going back real quick to if you see a problem, call whatever number. If we're gonna add that to the signs or something, the kiosks and everything, is it just the general number? I suppose?
I would have them leave messages on my office phone.
Oh, so it go to you?
Yeah.
Oh, I see,
I just
okay,
think it's better.
Yeah,
you
okay.
know,
that's fine.
When Anna was here, one of the things that we were really trying to achieve too is to get Van Curler properly surveyed and marked. Because there is a neighbor possibly that maybe have put up property, private property signs on actually our property. But we would like to have it very clear, and that way we'll keep the public out of their yards, but we'll also have a very good idea in case we do want to put a bicycle path in, separate from the walking path. At some point, it would be good to know exactly where our boundaries are, even though we have a pretty good idea. We have found, Steve, you were with us, we did go out and find each corner. We did identify those, but we would like to have it done properly to satisfy any question with
The
the
west
public.
boundary then.
Yeah,
A boundary
just-
survey done, right?
And have it done properly. That was something we've been,
How did we achieve the Van Curler? How did we get the Van Curler Reserve?
It was
We bought it.
before I was on land preservation, so it's been I think
You bought it.
13 years
With
ago.
you,
And
township.
It was with, yeah, it was.
So a
for
survey
land
was not
preservation.
done
Yeah.
at that time.
Oh,
but
may
it
have
was
been
done,
done.
yes.
We just
So
need to go out
there
there.
would be an existing survey somewhere.
Yeah,
Yes.
oh,
But we
okay, so it's not
established
getting
those
it,
points.
okay, so it's not getting it surveyed, it's
No.
finding,
and marking it.
okay.
Marking it.
Are you gonna put signs up?
Well, we were hoping to just go, Anna wanted to let the surveying company do that, so it's done, and it's, because it's a lot of work, and just put up the boundary signs. We can do it, we've done it before, but another thing that we need to be mindful of is that I think her name is it Van Curler? I think it's in here. The owner, wife, wanted to make some kind of a donation once things were opened up, once the park is opened up. And so her realtor, I'm sorry, but what her realtor is the person that we should contact. And her name is Carol. And anyway, I can, you might have this, but I have it, but we just need to be mindful of that. She wanted to make some kind of contribution.
Okay.
So
Okay.
This is a member of the Van Curler family?
Yes.
Oh,
I think it's
fantastic.
the wife, I think.
Great.
So anyway, that one is one that was falling through the cracks.
Okay.
We should do that ASAP because she said if you hadn't heard from her in March of 2024, that we should contact Brent. And, you know, things have just been like, oh.
Well, if they want a donation now is before the end of the year.
So they would like. to
Do you
make
have
a-
her like number or email address?
I have it right here.
Could you read it to me?
So it's Carol Van Curler is, but Brent, his last name is Fueling. It's FLEWELLING, and I'm sure I said his name.
I can't do it,
And
I'm
his
sorry.
phone number,
Can you
okay,
write it down?
oh.
Take a photo. Sorry, couldn't
Brent.
make my brain do that.
Llewellyn?
ELLING, and his number 73, I'll just write it down.
We'll keep moving here.
Okay,
GIS information system, I have talked to Norm on it. I don't know if anyone else has, but, he's on somewhere, not in this area right now.
He's in Texas.
Texas,
I
okay.
think so.
Yeah, when he said he came back in January, February, he would like to sit down and, figure out a park and try to use some of his mapping to do something with. I said, hey, it's good, I had information, I do a lot of this stuff already, so like, no, so. I don't know, no action today, just an update. Did anyone else talk to him?
I've
I
talked
had a
to,
meeting with him at his house and we went over, just like what his, I don't know what program, that his program could do for parks specifically. And I told him that I'd be really interested in figuring out, learning more about connectivity and then how to incorporate like our wildlife data into. the
Right, because there's so many
connectivity.
layers, there's all kinds of interesting things, and,
And he's-
especially we could, let's say Liberty Pond, it's here today. And we have a vision 10 years from now, and you could show how that is changing
Yeah.
and, we're
He's got a
starting
great
this
vision.
part, then it's just sort of exciting because all that mapping, all that GIS data, so like, then you look back, like, wow, this is what we've done and accomplished in 10 years, 15, blah, blah, blah. Got started as a baseline somewhere.
is
so.
he on Zoom? Norm,
No.
okay, because he might have been trying to get in. I got a phone call from him just as we were starting. but-
Oh.
So. Okay, we can make sure that he gets on next time and get him on at the beginning or something. So do you wanna hit these last, the reforestation or did we already
No,
talk
we're
about
already
that? We're done
On-
with
we're
that.
on unfinished
We're on
business.
finished
Oh, we're
Park
on
and
finished
Stabler.
business. Oh,
Of course we are.
all
Pretty
right.
good.
Oh,
Yeah, because I have.
Yeah.
Park and Stabler Road halfway. Can you
Um,
pull those?
So Liz and I were just out there and what we would like to see happen is, someone was asking, like, okay, what's the next step in getting this open to the public? We made a pathway there last summer. We started closer to Stabler Road. We took it back to the pathway that Anna had made behind Scio Farms. And so now that's connected. And then we went further and we made a pathway that goes into a landlocked field that we have. And so it's really, it's a beautiful walk. And
You guys are talking about different.
Park Road pathway?
Oh, I was
Well, this
thinking
is
about
different.
the
Park and Stabler.
continuing, so where that
Oh,
development is
look at me.
happening, yeah.
I'm just so excited about this pathway.
Yeah, Murphy's got it.
It's right there.
Yeah, Murphy's
That's why I
got
think
it.
there's a parking lot that
Oh,
she's talking about,
yeah.
that's thing here.
That's right.
Yeah.
But this is it.
Yeah.
Timberwood Development is building their path. And they're gonna stop at the property line. I don't know if you can pull up the drawings. But basically, they're gonna have a path that's gonna end at a property line. And if we extend another 880 feet, then it would connect another neighborhood to their pathway.
Trailwoods.
Trailwoods could then connect to Arbor. So then people could actually walk from Trailwoods to Meyer or to, wherever. Chickens, Slim Chickens or whatever the place is called.
Yeah.
If not, there's gonna be a gap. And I think in the road improvement agreement and the township agreement, it was never, hard to see. But basically, they've done the stone. This is Park Road looking west towards Stabler. So this is a project that Trailwoods is paying for, and they're gonna pave the road up to a road called Cedar Ridge Drive. I'm gonna do an aerial photo with that, Chris. So the road will get paved to Cedar Ridge Drive. Someday it may get paved to Zebra Road, it may not. But half, the developer only has to fund to his property line, then there's a gap. So they gave us a quote for $18,000 to extend that 180 feet.
The developer?
Yeah,
Okay.
the contractor that's doing the work for the developer.
Is that who this McKenzie is? So that's who's doing their work?
Project.
Okay.
So it is usually much more cost effective to add it to a contractor that's out there. I give the example, back in early 90s, we were involved with phase 1 of Jackson Boulevard, which basically went from Wagner out to West South Ridge and out to where, and at the end, we deleted the sidewalk out of the project because we didn't have enough money. Years later, we came back to do the sidewalk, it cost twice the cost. Because when you're out there doing the work,
Yeah.
it's so much easier just to add it versus if we come back later, I guarantee it's, if you find someone, it's gonna be 30,000. So their quote was $18,000 to extend it 180 feet. So then the path would connect to another neighborhood.
And that's this quote that you've got
Mhm.
here. 18,000 sounds interestingly low, yeah, but, or good, it's good. But it has a lot of things that are excluded. So what's the vision for addressing all of the things that are excluded?
Do you want to go with that?
Yours. Oh, I don't mind.
Wait, the other one of the big things they excluded is the connection into the neighborhood. They said there's no guarantees that meets ADA. And part of we met out there with OHM, because OHM's looking at doing a trail along Park Road from Cedar Ridge Drive all the way to the north. Let's go to this map so you guys can see.
I wonder if it's just because they
Fully
have
understand.
done these things for their initial proposal. I don't know.
So basically, this is Trailwood, this is Stabler, this is Park Road. This is the area that Rita was talking about. This is one of our preserves, right? So there's gonna be a trail that goes up, down here, down here, down here, down here, all the way along Park Road, along Park Road, along Park Road. And it's gonna stop right here. This is the gap we're talking about. If you fill that gap, then you can get into this neighborhood, the sidewalks all through this neighborhood. and you can get out to Zeeb Road.
So the gap is just along that one parcel, that one.
Right, because this is the property line trailways.
And that's what costs about
$18,000. What we need to do is OHM finalize, does this ramp meet current ADA? And if not, that would need to be engineered and added to the project.
Right, what does that connect to on the east, just Cedar Ridge Drive, or is there?
Cedar Ridge Drive, which, and this is Rollingwood, which goes up to.
I see, so there's gonna be this pathway along the north side of Park Road, and it stops short of Cedar Ridge. If it goes to
Right.
Cedar Ridge, then more people can use it.
Right. If not, you're just gonna have a dirt path. You have, trail, paved trail all the way up here. And I think that actually the trail that goes through here, it goes up to Menards too.
Oh,
So this is the trail right here, this is a paved trail, that comes out here. So, and eventually, obviously, connecting to this, these preserves, ultimately, the goal was to connect our township in all the way out to West Side, right?
Yeah.
And that's our goal, is trying to connect all these parks so people can
Is my
walk.
concern. Yeah.
And what's,
He's just going with the concrete.
trail along the north side of Park Road that is gonna be constructed by
Cement.
timber,
Yeah,
Timber,
I got it.
wood, people. Is that a sidewalk?
10 foot,
Yeah.
yeah, right.
10-foot big path,
8 to 10 feet. I think it's 10, but
wider
it's
than the sidewalk.
wider than
And
sidewalk,
we're talking about doing a similar engineering, similar
right to here.
copying, so.
Having them continue putting stone down and paving it.
So this quote includes putting, I saw it, talks about the aggregate base, and it says shared use path HMA, does that mean?
Hot mix asphalt.
Okay, it's
paving.
hotness, that makes, okay, thank you.
1.5 inches, 1.5 inches, so 3 inches.
Okay, so
What's the
that's,
other items in there?
It's that-
Yeah, grading it, base down and then paving it.
okay, so that's to put in asphalt.
Yeah, right, yeah, sure.
I'm really, the idea behind it is, and connectivity and the short distance and all that, it's a no-brainer. This list of extensive list of uncovered items is extensive. And things like dewatering usually means things like culverts and
Well, they just put everything in, they're not doing, because they're not doing it.
I know, but
I
this
don't
is
know why they
pretty
did that, but-
extensive.
Huh?
This is pretty extensive of things that they,
Yeah, I have no idea why they did that, because they don't need to do any of those things. I don't know why they.
how do you know they don't need to do these things? They
Well,
don't need a permit?
Well, you can see out there, you wouldn't need to de-water the site, all you do need
It's
to do. is
very
like-
wet.
Yeah, but all you're doing is scraping off the ground, putting stone down and paving it. You're not,
I know,
Yeah,
but when
digging.
OHM came in with their view of what all had to happen between French Estates or Arbor Point and Zeeb, there was pretty extensive work that needed to be done relative to stormwater management.
right, but that is for a full road and trail. I mean, you're talking a half-mile road, this is 180 feet of,
But we would be
Sidewalk.
connecting,
the road's already gonna be paved, we're just doing this.
Well, this has nothing to do with the road, this is
this is the
pathway.
I
sidewalk.
think it depends upon the topography, if this is, if they're trying to build it in a drainage ditch, they have to provide for drainage. If it's up on high ground, it might be easy. I don't know the topography myself.
So if you did look at the pictures, it's pretty flat.
It looks flat from the pictures, but I am
It
not
is flat.
familiar with it.
Well,
So then
Before we
really
could
you're
s-
saying because of what I think I'm hearing you say is that because it's a pathway and not a road, dewatering isn't a concern. Is that,
Right, I
Correct.
built miles of
I know you
pathway,
have, yeah,
and I've never de-watered.
okay,
De-water when you gotta go down in the ground, right?
Okay.
When you're building a storm sewer, a pump station,
good.
a bridge, anything you're going down
Mhm.
6 to 8, 10 feet deep, you're underground, right? That's where water comes in. When you're on the surface, Why would you?
Well,
do you
other than
want-
rainwater just washing off, there's nothing to worry about.
Apparently this is on land that is high and dry.
Yeah, you can see it, but it's also, since it's a pathway,
Yeah,
you know, you're gonna have bicycles but you're not gonna be driving on it. You're not gonna
Right.
have trucks driving on
Right.
it. It's not like, you know,
okay,
it shouldn't fail that way. It's
Right.
just.
You excavate down, 6 inches for your stone, 3 inches for your asphalt, so
what
excavate
it
down 9 inches,
Mhm.
build it back up.
Well, I would defer to the engineering that has to be done on it.
But OHM, that's what I'm saying, OHM, that's what part of it, they want OHM to look at that
Mhm.
connection into,
Who's they, Mackenzie?
yeah,
Yeah, okay, so they're gonna hire the engineer or we're gonna hire the
well,
engineer?
OHM works for us, so we would hire them.
Okay. So the additional cost onto this 18 is at a minimum OHM's engineering cost.
Right.
Before we would be able to progress with this.
But there might not be much engineering involved.
Right, not for the path, just where you connect in, just make sure it meets ADA. You have the ramps that have to be certain.
Well, they have to. They won't sign off on just a ramp.
Well, that's what OHM, and they've already surveyed that, because they're already doing the engineering up Park Road. And
Right.
we walked the whole thing with them, and so they've already done some of this. We just have to take what their plans are and make sure this could work with what they're designing out.
Okay,
We're not
I
just
like
like-
those words, to see if it could work.
Right.
Okay,
And like I said, it's flat and straight, it's,
I've
Well, but
been there,
not-
I've walked it many times, I agree. But we would not take a vendor's word to go lay down a sidewalk until it's been approved through an engineer.
So my next step would be to contact OHM and ask them to do engineering on that 180-foot.
I would ask them to
Place
ask
where the
how much it's gonna
connection-
cost to engineer,
Okay.
because it's,
it costs more than $10, no, I'm just saying. You don't really, I mean, you're getting, they're already doing this already, so they shouldn't.
then it should not,
Exactly.
then it should not be
Right.
a lot or none.
right.
It's
I
like
mean-
take an aerial
Right.
photo, draw some lines on it.
Yeah, I understand, but
You,
We don't wanna
this is
overcomplicate
easy,
it.
you do this all the time, and when I see a list of exclusions like that, or you do, I mean,
Well, I
I think, what,
The list, it truly is a boilerplate list. I mean, it's just like frost law, load limitation.
well, okay,
Not a-
so be it, but,
No, but it's. I'm just saying this is a list of
Mhm.
everything possible. But I'm not trying to contradict anybody's,
Mhm.
what everybody's saying. Not arguing, it's.
I mean, they're just covering themselves, I understand, by putting in an exhaustive
Right.
list.
So we want OHM to review this
Mhm.
and have them, what would it take for them to
Yeah.
engineer it and approve such path?
Yeah,
So
right.
hope- I mean, the thing is,
Because it
we'd
won't-
like to have this done with their project,
Okay,
so.
because this will, as it stands, Board of Trustees would not approve this, coming in without,
Right, OHM, right.
Without-
Signing off. I
and
agree.
so,
I agree.
It makes sense.
okay,
I
There
mean,
we go.
you can opt to
Right,
try, but.
right, no, the email. Yeah,
no, I don't think anybody wants to do that, I think
Okay.
we wanna say, do what Roy is talking
Saying that
about, yeah.
OHM needs re.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
I think that we're all in agreement there, yeah. Absolutely.
The connectivity is straightforward and,
Mhm.
and
So why don't we bring it back next meeting or February after OHM's looked at it, so.
Yeah,
and to make sure that we've got a total cost.
right, engineering plus that,
Engineering this, what, to go from, what amount of money is going to have to come out of budgets to pay for this project?
is this a PPP project or a general fund project?
PPP.
Yeah, even though it's connecting onto a PUD? Or is it a PUD? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Public, yeah. Okay,
It is a pathway. And this pathway will
Yeah.
eventually go late to our reserve, like I said, west of
Okay.
here, we have acres and acres of reserves.
All right, great.
I think it's a good idea because it looks kind of dumb to have sidewalks that just end.
does,
Yeah.
My pet peeve.
Right, I know, that's one of mine too, so like,
Yeah.
you're kidding me, because I didn't realize it was missed. And then I talked to people, it's like, oh yeah, that was missed.
Oh.
It's like, well, here's an opportunity. If
Yeah,
we don't do it, it's not gonna get done.
right, great.
And when do you see it, wanting to be done or funded?
Well, it needs to be funded this winter, so we can do the work this spring.
Okay, so you want it coming out of, do you have the money in your PPP yet this
Yes.
24, 25 yet?
Okay.
Great.
Wait, would this qualify for any type of grant? Yeah.
Potentially, but
Yeah.
do you wanna do it this year?
Or do you want
Or
to?
you-
I mean,
Most of the grants for this are long gone.
Yeah, right.
Just fill the gap, and like, I agree with Tom. Lastly, I hate when things like, because governments couldn't talk and work together, we left the gap out here.
Well, this ends up being developers, you know, Yet Arbor Chase, who sidewalked up to what they had to do, and Trailwood's doing the same, so.
Okay, do we have new business? Is there new business?
Public comment.
Okay, all right, let's go to public comment. Is there anyone?
Hey guys, this is Jim Hartwell. I don't know how to raise my hand on a Zoom call, otherwise I would have done it. So, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hey, listen, I'm Bob raised his hand. Bob figured it out. I couldn't figure it out, Bob. Hey, Rob. Listen, just a couple of things. From the Scio Flyers, right? For those that might not know me, my name is Jim Hartwell. I'm president of Scio Flyers. I want to let you guys know that we're doing our Fanny Freeze on New Year's Day. We'll be out there at 11 o'clock. And anybody from the public that wants to come out, it depends on the weather, how long we stay. Last year, we had a really good day and we were out there all day. Well, not all day, but a couple hours. If the weather is really nasty, we'll do one flight and then go home. So I just want to let you guys know that. The big news that the reason I stuck on here is the really big news from the Flyers is we kicked off our UAS for STEM program this past Sunday. And that's a huge program for the club. And it's a drone engineering where we're putting together a team of students ranging from 11 years old to 18 years old. And the team will go off and compete in an engineering competition, national engineering competition. 2 stages, they'll compete in a virtual competition in April. And then if they get an invitation, they'll go off to a physical competition in Oshkosh, Wisconsin in July. So we're super excited about that. That's an educational program centered around engineering and STEM topics. So that's a big thing that's going on with the Flyers through the winter months, because this is our off season for flying. So we're trying to get keep the kids engaged. And I just wanted to announce that. I want to let you guys know that because I haven't seen you guys as a group for a while. So I just want to let you guys know that was going on. Thanks.
Thank you.
Also got Rob Pattinson.
Hi, gang. Rob Pattinson, Scio Township resident. Murphy, I really enjoyed in the capital investment plan, I really enjoyed your creativity and the envisioning of what the future could hold. Very well done. On Township Hall Park, the DDA had their meeting this week, and they have, I believe, they have budgeted some funding for the Township Hall Park. Have you coordinated with the DDA about how they will help funding?
Parkwood meeting?
The way?
Is this the Parkwood meeting?
Parkwood or? This
No.
is the park preserves and pathway. Is that what you're looking for?
There's a meeting tonight.
Okay. Parkwood is that area.
Parkwood. Oh,
Rob, are you still there?
sorry.
Yep, I'm still here. No problem. No problem at
Yes,
all.
so the DDA, yeah, we were able to collaborate with them and they'll be providing for the Township Hall Park $50,000 per year for the next 2 years to go towards the Township Hall Park improvements.
Fantastic. Well done. And will the CIP, will that be in the minutes? It's not in the agenda packet. Will that document be in the minutes?
I guess I should do that. It's a draft, so I'll have to I'll have to edit it so that it says draft across it.
Okay.
But yeah, I guess that would be appropriate.
This is just
to
a start.
Yeah,
Right.
a more formal one will be available. Well, this draft will be edited, but the next draft will be included at the BOT meeting next Tuesday in the packet.
Oh, okay. Well done again. And then we have the developer, Woodview Commons, and they promised to not do any building during the heron nesting season. Do we have any documentation? Did they keep their word on not encroaching on that that barrier that we established with them?
Yes. They kept their word.
Rob, did you hear that?
Yes, yep. And then several years ago, when the herons were found, we talked about monitoring that area to make sure that they weren't pestered by people and that sort of thing. With your cameras for the dumping of trash, got me thinking about that again. Is there any plan to do any monitoring of the herons?
Yeah, I really like well, I mean, it doesn't have to just be a stewards led project, but having the stewards focus on monitoring the herons would be awesome. We also, I forgot to say this about the bats, but we also have a stationary bird and amphibian call recorder that we'll be able to deploy each of the parks too. So that's another way to passively monitor the herons in case, I know it's kind of difficult to get there. So it's another way of monitoring them.
Well done. And then lastly, Trustee Monk, I am grateful for your caution. That was my reaction to the quote as well, with all those exclusions. It's who pays for that when they discover that there's something on the exclusion that needs to be done, who pays for it? And I sincerely, I'm grateful for your caution on that subject. So well done and great meeting, gang. Thank you for letting us participate.
Thanks, Rob.
Anyone else there? Any hands up?
No.
Okay, so do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Opposed?
Roger, mine's not off. I'll make sure I got the time. Ah.
All right, that was a lot,
Yeah,
but
we're getting to have more and more, that's a lot.
well,
Which is good.
I think
Crisco.
Oh, here.
because of the budget coming up and with this, that was a lot to go through and we kind of got a little
Right.
ways in time.
I struggled a bit with the TLAs, but I didn't understand necessarily everything. You guys throw a lot of terms